I was in my career in financial services. I had lots of other girlfriends and guy friends that I networked with from time to time, and then Hurricane Ivan hit. So organizations that I was used to going to for networking events no longer existed. Some of them literally shut down because too many of their members got displaced and they couldn't carry on. So it was actually a girlfriend of mine, and she had a girlfriend, and we kind of all ran into each other literally on the street one day. She happened to live a couple blocks from me. She and I talked and said, I'm really struggling. She said she was really struggling, and the third lady said she was struggling. We decided to go to lunch, and we just sat around, and I absolutely knew what the woman next to me needed to do to rebuild her world, and she knew exactly what to tell the third woman, and that third woman knew exactly what to tell me. It was kind of one of those situations where we couldn't tell ourselves, but by leaning on each other for support, it was amazing that we had all the answers we needed right there within the three of us. And we actually said, this was amazing. This lunch was unbelievable. We left there motivated, we left encouraged, and we left empowered. And we said, I know once we get out of these doors, things are going to change, and we're going to need to do this again. The next month, sure enough, all of our worlds were a little bit strained. We were stressed. We were not as enthusiastic as the very first month. So we came back together the second month, and we had about 10 or 15 women to that second lunch. No structure, no real idea of what we were doing. We were just coming together as women to help each other. And so that's how it actually started. That was back in 2004. And from there, we've actually grown it now to 2 different chapters. We have a chapter in Pensacola and one in Gulf Breeze. And now it's a full-fledged organization where we have incorporation paperwork, we run an annual conference, we do a print magazine, all sorts of other things. But we never intended at the beginning to start it like that. We actually did something that was more of a need in the community, and we were amazed how it continued to thrive. Growing up, I did a lot of self-learning, a lot of soul-searching, and trying to figure out who I was. And I didn't actually find myself till I was probably in my mid-30s. So kind of I look at myself as a little bit of a late bloomer, because all the things that I'm doing now, I wish I would have had that information to do when I was back in my 20s. Some of the terms that I think a lot of women hear sometimes, which are, I can't get along with that woman, or that woman's catty, or that woman's, thinks she's all that. It's kind of funny because I don't hear those same terms being spoken from men. And I think we as women need to take ownership on why that's happening. And that gets me to kind of my second point, which are that women are different than men. And they just really are. And the way that I learned about that and how that has such a big importance with Powerful Women of the Gulf Coast is my theory. The law of evenness basically says that if there's one woman that does rise above, that becomes somewhat of a leader in that area, what's going to naturally happen is the entire crowd will pull that woman down. Or that one woman that's up top will pull everybody else up. And I think that maintains the law of evenness. When we live on that same playing field, I think we get along so much better as women. Women, I think a lot of times don't put ourselves first, but we need to help each other put ourselves first as well.
Jack and Jill of America is an organization, it's a national organization for African American families, and you are accepted into the organization if you're a mother, and mothers with children from the ages of 2 to 18, to be able to see our young women, our teenage males, seeing their moms at work. They are able to see some of the best part of their moms. They're not only able to see the sacrifices that we make every day to ensure that our programming activities are at the utmost of done in an excellent nature for them, but they also see how we sacrifice our time by keeping it all together in the family. But I think it helps to inspire the young ladies on an example that they have before them on what a mom looks like. And many times we try not to give them a false sense of reality, whereas moms that we always do everything right, but I think they get to see that we put forth effort. So a word of encouragement or advice that I would give to a mom or moms in general is make time for you. Even if it's just the 5 minutes that you take when everyone is gone to sleep and you're at your most weariest moment, is to take a moment to breathe in, one, the goodness and grace of God. But also I think time to replenish yourself by thinking and reminding yourself that today you did something great. Even if it may have been something really small with packing your child's lunch. That took 10 minutes. That took time out of your day, but it was an act of love that you gave back to know that you did something great. Always recognize that sometimes we're our worst critic, but to take time in your day to give yourself an accolade, whether it's the fact of how well you look today, by the fact you took time to get up today, because for some of us that's just a challenge because we're tired, and the fact that I got up and when I put one foot in front of the other says a lot. It says that I really want today to be better than it was yesterday, and I'm going to put my best foot forward. If we can share with our children that every day is not an easy day, but I think that we can share not only the good, but also we share the bad, because many times I think as women that we try to put a lot of sugar or a lot of honey and not allow our children and our families to see the fact that, you know what, mommy's tired today, or you know what, mommy needs 5 minutes to just go and take a shower and I'll come back out and answer your question. And not be afraid to let our children know that today is just not the best day where I can perform on my A game and be superwoman today, but really making sure that you take time for you and not get lost in the shuffle. When you think about women and you think about women if they serve in the role of mom, grandmother, aunt, godmother, whatever the role may be, when we're doing something for our children, we will make sacrifices. We will stay in situations and make decisions that may not be the best decision, but at the time it was the greatest decision for my children. We're all here together for our children, and we give back to the community and do all of the community service activities that we do to ensure that our arms are expanded out and that we do what we do for all children.
Pretty women wonder where my secret lies. I'm not cute, built to suit a fashion model size. But when I start to tell them, they think I'm telling lies. Oh, it's in the reach of my arms, the span of my hips, the stride in my steps, the curl of my lips. I'm a woman, phenomenal woman. Oh, I'm a woman. Oh, baby, that's me. walk into a room just as cool as you please. To a man, the fellas stand and they fall down on their knees. Then they swarm around me like a hive of honeybees. Oh, I say it's in the fire in my eyes, the flash of my teeth, the swing of my waist, the joy in my feet. I'm a woman, phenomenal woman. Oh yeah. Oh, I'm a woman. Yeah. Oh, baby, that's me. It's in the arch of my back, the sun of my smile, the right of my breast, the grace of my Now you understand just why my head's not bowed. I don't shout or jump about, I have to talk real loud. But when you see me passing, it ought to make you proud. Oh, I see it's in the click of my heels, the bend of my hair, the palm of my hands, the need of my head. 'Cause I'm a woman, phenomenal woman, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, I'm a woman, yeah. Baby, that's me. It's in the palm of my hands and the leaf of my care. Phenomenal, phenomenal, phenomenal woman. Baby, oh baby, 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 that's me. That's me. Yeah. For every phenomenal woman in the house.
Sarah is probably maybe the only person, as I've been working in social services for over the last 12, 13 years, that when she has a vision or she feels like God has spoken to her, the woman's going to make it happen. For example, she had this vision that she was going to open a thrift store to help support our foster parents, which I would think someone with 11 children and who, her and her husband worked full time, that's a big task to take on. But It was like a couple months later, she called and she said, we have a facility that we found, a building, and we're opening it up, and I'm getting volunteers there, and it was going to open in 2 months. Same thing with the children's home. I think when she first came to everybody and presented her idea, we've all seen a lot of people that have come forward over the years who have really good ideas and intentions to build something such as this facility. And I think it took her 2 years. She found a building and she just called up and said, hey, can you come out? I want to show you something. And she showed me this piece of property and she had the vision. It was all laid out. If God tells her to do something, she's going to get it done, and there's no stopping her.
Sarah and I teach class together, the QPT class, which is fabulous. And one of the things we talk about is children aging out. 18, they leave home, they go out on their own. A lot of times with the kids that are in foster care, and some of them can stay with their foster parents, but some of them go out on their own. But then holidays come up, and Christmas comes up, and birthdays come up. And a lot of times people say, oh, what are you doing for Thanksgiving? And a lot of times kids that have aged out of foster care, they don't have families, they don't have anywhere to go. And Sarah's idea was to call this place Mama's House. So everybody is invited at Halloween, at Christmas, at Thanksgiving, and the children, if they're asked, oh, what are you doing? They'll say, oh, I'm going to Mama's house.
I'm obsessed with making sure that I do the mission that God gave me to do. I know the children's names and I know their faces, and those little arms around my legs saying, please take me home with you, please. Because the little boy wanted to be with his sister. That's a really simple request, just to want to be with your sister and not be split up when you're in foster care. The young lady that didn't get adopted, that's in the hospital, that just, she's scared and she just wants somebody to sit there and just hold her hand because she doesn't have anybody and she doesn't know how it's all going to pan out. That's what drives me. The children absolutely need us, and someone has to mother them. And I think about them all the time. I wonder whatever happens to them, and I want better for them. Their life can change and the chains can be broken, and they don't have to just stay in this existence that they were born into. They are competent to get more. Most importantly, I know whose daughter I am. And once I realized that, and I really had a grasp of who I belonged to, then tremendous peace came on me, because my Father owns everything, plans everything, has everything. And so I'm just going around doing his work. And sometimes I have to remind myself when I get stressed and I get worried about things, think, who do you think you are? You are the daughter of the Most High King.
I'm so fortunate. People will ask me to MC events, and I'm more than happy to do it. Or people will want me to do something that's very visible as a part of whatever their project is or their organization. I am just as comfortable, more comfortable sweeping the floor. Let me help with the setup. Let me help with the cleanup. Let me do the dishes. Let me stay in the kitchen and fix the plates. So that is the Sue that people don't know. The rest of what you see, that's me. Because when I tell people, I am where I am by divine intervention only. My steps have been ordered every step of the way. I never had sense enough. There is no reason explainable as to why I should be where I am today doing what I'm doing today. None whatsoever. But by divine intervention. So the rest of what you see, that's who I am, and that's what I was meant to be doing. What drives me is the desire. the true desire to help people, And I used to feel like, I think like a lot of us feel, that we need to make a big difference. We need to help 10,000 people. You know, you haven't done anything if it's not the masses in whose lives you're making a difference. I learned a long time ago, and probably as a way of self-preservation, if you would, I count successes in ones. If I can help one somebody, if I've made life a little easier for one person, for one mother, for one child, if I had an encouraging word for one person that day, then that's a success. We've got to just not fret the little things in life, the little annoyances, the little things that people do. That has probably been one of the biggest things that I've learned, and perhaps it comes with age or seasoning, experience as much as anything else. It's just, don't be quick to be annoyed by little things.
What keeps you going?
What keeps me going? Knowing that there is one more somebody. And usually for me, it's a child that I end up seeking out, or who finds their way in my path, that there's one more somebody, there's one more something that I can do today to make a difference. One more something, one more somebody.
What ignites me is what ignites my faculty, what ignites the students. When I see them on fire, I'm on fire. When I see them passionate about what they're doing or what they want to do, then it drives me to do whatever it takes to help them get there. You cannot lead people without serving people. So if you're not prepared to serve, then you can't lead them. You can't ask people to go where you're not willing to go. And so that ignites me. It's what can I do to be a better servant? How can I help everybody get to where they need to be? Now, I'm a realist because I know that that's not everyone all the time, but you don't focus on that. You focus on those that you can do, that you can move, that you can help to be better, and that makes me better. So our goal is to teach students, to enable and empower students to be able to prepare themselves. Will they all go to college? Some, not all, and they don't need to. Some will go to work, some will join the military, that's fine, but we want them to have the options, the choices, and the resources. So on the first day of school and every day, when that bell sounds, we go to work. We're trying to prepare ourselves so that when kids come, they know that we're going to give you everything we got to give you options, choices, resources. Because again, kids need a champion. And so what motivates me is that God, Jeremiah 29:11, the Lord reminds us that I do have a plan for you. Now, sometimes we interrupt the plan because we want to do things like do it our way. We want to be grown. We want to have a final say. This is my life. And we have to realize, no, this is not your life. This life belongs to God. My mother and my grandmother and different people in my life, they wouldn't let me quit. They would tell you, my grandmother was a realist. She would tell you, you walked into that with your eyes wide open. And so the Lord has forgiven you. Now you forgive yourself and move on. Before I got into education, I had in my mind that I was going to do something else. And that same grandmother called me one day in the middle of work, line was busy, everything was going on. I'll just say I did customer service and it was very busy. Of all the people that could come through on the line, she came through on the line, got right to me. And she said, and listen, you're going to go back to school. They got scholarships, I read it in the newspaper. You go back to school and they need teachers, so you're going to be one of those. But I believed her. And I had faith in her because of her faith in God. I saw something in her life. I had seen her faith tried and tested and proven, and I believed her. One of the things that has motivated me is being able to see others that walk in the faith. Doesn't mean the walk has been easy, but they kept walking. And she was one of those that stayed with God. I had to look back at this small child that was at my house, and I told God, I'm going to finish school before she starts school. I'm going back. and I'm gonna finish before she starts. And so when she got ready to go to kindergarten, I was finishing with the degree in education. Then that same grandma, her and my mother got themselves together and decided, don't park there. Now that you're in school, stay in there and go to grad school, because you don't know what's gonna happen next. She says it's easier to stay up than to try to get up. So while you're in there, stay there. So went back, finished grad school. I wish I had stayed even longer, but I left with a master's and I kept going. And so I've had family, I've had friends, I've had faith. You know, my grandmother taught us early that when you realize that God is all you got, you realize that God is all you need. And so he never told us it would be easy. He said he would make it possible. We like to say, God, he'll fight my battles. That is true, but not always. There are some battles that you're gonna have to fight. And even if you don't, how do you know if you have to fight or not if you don't show up? My grandmother would tell us, if you want to get ahead, you got to get out of the bed. And if you want to get blessed, you got to get dressed. So we have to get up and we go fight. So when I look at what has motivated me, I had another young woman in my house that was my daughter. And I knew I had one child and one shot at this. So I didn't always do it right. But like I told her, if mama didn't do it right, I want you to know that I meant to. So if I can't give you anything else, let me give you God, because he won't ever fail. And so I fight and I keep going because I have a daughter, I have a family, I have friends, I have faith that have pushed me along the way. Some kids, all they will get is what they can see from 8:20, in our day, 8:20 to 3:05. So we have to make it count, because you don't know what they came from. You don't know what they're going back into. All you can do is make the place that you provide for them a safe haven. Make it a place where you expect the most out of them. We don't lower expectations. Bring them up. And kids will do what you expect them to do. You set there at the bar, they'll come up to it every time. And sometimes you have to go lower and build them up a little at a time, but they'll come up. You don't leave it low. You come up, they'll come up with you. This work is hard. It's hard work, but it is the best thing that's ever happened to me. And I like to believe that those that make up this place where we are, it's the best thing that's ever happened to them too.